Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All Things Middle-earth here with a video looking at the season store and which gear pieces, if any, you should spend your season medals on. So stay tuned, we're going to look at that in just 1 second. Starting out with the Mithril coat, it's going to be for focus. It's going to start out at 8 focus, and the army defense is going to start out at 12. And the possible effects on this one are going to be as follows. You're going to have barrier. These are all going to be maxed out values. You're going to have barrier for the first 2 rounds. All allies are going to get extra 30% defense. Improved shroud. In the first round, 3 allied units are going to have a 30% chance to evade damage. You're going to have resilience of dwarves, which is an extra 24 defense for dwarves. Serenity while defending, allied units are going to receive 9% less damage. And then tactical maneuvers. First 3 rounds, the allied units are going to receive 18% less damage. So that is the Mithril coat right there. Next up is going to be the Blazing Tongue. This is very restrictive in terms of who can use it. It can only be used by Undead and Maiar. There'll also be some commanders that can bypass that restriction, which we'll talk about. But this is going to give you Commander Might and Army Attack. And the effects on this one are going to be, I'll put them up on the screen because I don't have one in my inventory. The effects are going to be Ignition for the first 5 rounds. The allied commander is going to deal an extra 30% burn damage. That's a maxed out value. Scorch, the commander normal attacks are going to have a 50% chance to deal an additional 160% burn damage. The next one is Mind Split. After the commander performs a normal attack, there's a 50% chance of dealing 160% focus damage modified by the focus stat. Then you have Might of Evil Men, which is going to be damage dealt plus 12%, and Panic, which is going to be after the commander attacks against the enemy target. They're going to have a 50% chance to inflict madness. So those are the effects for the Blazing Tongue. And now last but not least, we're going to look at the Ancient Numenoren Helm. The Numenoren Helm, like the Mithril coat, is going to be another focus-based item. So it's going to start out with 12 focus. You're going to have army defense, and you're going to have HP for men and evil men. The effects on this one, I also don't have one of these laying around. So the effects are, I'll put them on the screen. Fortitude of Elves. Allied elven units are going to receive 9% less damage. Dominion, for the first 2 rounds, enemy commander is going to deal 36% less damage. Shock, first round of the battle, all enemies are going to have a 60% chance to inflict stun each round. Tranquility, every 3 rounds, allied units remove 1 random debuff, and 3 allied units recover 30% HP. And then lastly, Formation Break, for the first 4 rounds, the commander is going to do 24% extra damage against melee units. So that's a quick overview on these items. Now let's look at them each specifically, and I'll give you some suggestions for who I think can best use these items. Okay, so there are 4 commanders I'm going to suggest for uses of the Mithril coat. There are going to be a lot more, and if you're using it on someone else, don't feel bad. This is just off the top of my head and talking to some of our Master at Arms, some ideal uses for this type of an item, which is going to be focus based. The first 2 are going to be tier 3 good commanders, and that is going to be Gandalf the White and Galadriel, both who are extremely high focused commanders who are going to get a lot of use out of the extra focus. The ideal effects here are going to be tactical maneuvers and improved shroud. My personal preference would be tactical maneuvers, just to reduce that damage taken by our army by 18%. That's a pretty significant chunk, not including what abilities and other items you may have on your commanders. So do very well on a Galadriel or a Gandalf the White. A little bit more affordable, that might be more realistic for a lot of people, would be a Gandalf the Grey. Again, Gandalf has a lot of healing and damage reduction, so adding almost 20% more to that could be very, very good for him as well. And then on the evil side, I'd suggest someone like Sauron. I think Sauron especially can get great use out of this item because of the extra defense you have on the Mithril coat. He's going to be running ideally evil men who may not be as tanky. With some of these other commanders that you could, with Gandalf the White, for example, you might be running a little bit beefier of a cavalry army. Or with Galadriel, you could run full guardians who may not get as much use out of the defense, still solid. But with Sauron specifically, if you're running units that are a little bit less tanky, that extra defense is going to make a bigger difference. So I think Sauron would be a fantastic choice for this as well. The next item is very interesting, and I wish it was a little bit better because I think it looks like the coolest item out of the 3, but that is the Blazing Tongue. Now, it is a solely might-based weapon with army attacks. You want to look at what commanders you have that need might or do better with more might, and also have troops dealing damage, because if the commander's doing all the work, you get less out of the army attack. So one option is going to be Witch King with the Might of Evil Men effect. Now, this would be for a little bit of an alternative Witch King build, because there are better options. Like, I would say the Cutlass, the purple item, would be a better option for a standard Witch King. But if you're running a more Evil Men heavy build without Alchemists, or with less Alchemists, you could run Might of Evil Men. You get the army attack, you get the straight might for him. And that'd be a pretty solid option for that one there. Another good one would be Gandalf the White with Mind Split. He's a high focus commander, but he also has high might, and has, ideally cavalry with him. So there's kind of a good balance of might and focus with Gandalf the White. and using that with Mind Split could be very, very effective. Another commander you could use it with that maybe you wouldn't think of would be Círdan. This one I think is a little bit less effective than Gandalf the White, but he can ignore equipment restrictions with his R5. So down here you see Círdan ignores the race restrictions of all equipment. So that might be one that you could use that you didn't think. Other commanders like that would be Tier 1 and Tier 2 Aragorn. They would benefit from the might, being that they are damage dealing commanders, and you could use an effect like Panic on them. It would be solid, but again, I think maybe your Gandalf the White or your Witch King with their kind of respective builds could be your best options for this. Again, it's very restrictive to Maiar and to Undead, so maybe down the road we'll get more commanders that'll make better use out of this, but right now it's not an ideal item that I would chase after. I think there are better items, but if you happen to have it, maybe you've gotten lucky and pulled a few of them, there could definitely be some cool uses, and hey, it's a really cool looking weapon, so if you like it, you know, it's got some use, so you know, don't worry about the details of it too much. If it's something you really enjoy, I'm very much considering getting a Blazing Tongue for my Gandalf the White, so we'll see what happens. The next item we're going to look at is going to be the Ancient Numenoren Helm. This is going to be another focus-based item, so we're going to look at basically those same commanders we looked at for the Mithril Coat, although this could have some slightly different uses. The effect that I think would be the best on this one would be Tranquility. Tranquility seems like a very, very good effect on any item that can have it. So you could run this on someone like a Sauron who needs that focus and who is going to have evil men. So those evil men getting the defense, getting the extra HP, having Tranquility and getting the focus of the commander would be solid there. But all those same suggestions, looking at the focus and seeing which of your commanders is going to benefit the most. Again, if you're running any commanders that have men and are going to benefit from the HP, it's going to be fantastic. But your Galadriels, your Gandalf the Whites, your Gandalf the Greys, your Saurons, those are going to be choices as well. And maybe you don't have Tier 3 or even Tier 2 commanders. Maybe you're brand new and you're like, hey, you're only suggesting Tier 2 and Tier 3 commanders. You can look through your commander list and see who you have available. And again, ideally, if you're looking through this to see who's going to be the best use, it's going to be, again, you could look at someone like a Grima, who's a Tier 1, has the highest focus as a stat, and could very well be running evil men. That could be one that could definitely get some use from him. So even if you don't have Gandalf the White or Galadriel, those Tier 3s, you can look through your Tier 1s, see which ones are focus-based, because they're going to get the most use out of it. Again, usually whatever commanders do well, you just want to have your gear increase that. For the most part, like I'd say 99% of the time, that's kind of how you want to do things. So looking through that list and seeing who you have, what you have them doing, and if that item is going to increase that. Again, you could have someone, even as crazy as it sounds, could be a Merry and Pippin. They have higher focus, so that would increase that. I'm not saying to put it on Merry and Pippin, but there are more options outside of Tier 2s and Tier 3s. But I think the best options for this gear is going to be with those Tier 2s and Tier 3s that we mentioned. So my final thoughts on these items are as follows, that there are some good options for these. If you already have them, if you've already bought them, there are some best case options for this. However, I would honestly not suggest that anyone go and spend their points on these items. I just don't think they're that great. There are, for all the commanders we talked about, I think there are better items, even sometimes better purple items. So it's just very expensive for an entire season, especially if you won your season, you have the right title, and you get the brand new item. You'd think it should be better. But again, they're not bad, but they're solid options. The other thing could be if you have like a really ideal piece, like maybe you have a helmet with Aegis on your favorite commander and you just need to keep strengthening it. You could grab the Numenoren helm to strengthen it with that. I think that'd be points well spent. But for me personally, I'm going to hold on to my points until there is something that comes across that looks really, really, really good. Because other than my personal preference being the Blazing Tongue just for fun, I think there are better choices in other gold items or in even purple items that you could strengthen further. So that's my personal suggestion. Again, if you've already bought it or if you want to buy something, hopefully my suggestions for which commanders you can use helped you so you can get some better use out of it. But I personally am a little bit disappointed in the season end shop. These are reward options for playing for an entire season, and for winning. I have 1,800 points from winning a season, and I can get 1 gear piece. Again, I'm not saying we need to get 10, but I feel like we could be a little bit more lenient with these points, or maybe things that get older could cost less. So the Mithril Coat's been out for a while. Maybe I could get more of those than 1, but you're locked to getting 1. So moral of the story, I'd love to see the season store improved so that we get a little bit more rewards for playing for an entire season. Again, if you stick with the game for a whole season and are sitting around, especially sitting around in a place like Bag End with nothing to do, give us a little bit more with our rewards. I think people would really appreciate that. But those are just my thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments below how you're using your season store points. what items you got and if you found use. And if there are commanders you didn't hear me mention that you like to use, and again, this is not an all-inclusive list. So if you've got some other ones that you've found use with, let us know in the comments down below. But that's going to do it for me in this one, and I'll see you all in a future video.